Well, hello, students. Here we are embarking on week 2 already. Would you believe it? Already a whole week went by. And I really liked all of the papers that you guys had produced. They were very, very well written, especially the companies that you chose to write about and the people that you interviewed. Very, very impressive of all the different cultures and what makes these cultures tick. I often wonder sometimes how a culture comes together, even in the planning stages. And as we add more and more employees, the culture begins to develop, embellish, and it forms into a very dynamic type of entity where people who buy products or services from this particular culture trust that culture. For whatever the reason, whether it be customer service, products, whatever, people know that they will get a benefit from going there. Now, that's the external SWOT. But looking at the internal SWOT from an employee's perspective, one asks the question, what do we get out of working for this company? What type of satisfaction do we get? Do we feel like we're truly making a difference in this company? And now that we are into week 2, we want to understand what contribution every individual makes in an organization when they walk through the door and they become that new hire. So in this particular week, we're going to be looking at diversity in a big way. And when we talk about diversity, we're talking about how our differences blend into our commonalities in achieving strategic goals. And, the other thing is whether we're in the company or not, what do we think of ourselves? What is our self concept? We're going to be talking about Maslow's pyramid, and I'll be referencing to that throughout the course. But as we go up the pyramid, a higher level need is self-esteem. That's our ego. How do we feel about the organization that we work for? Does it make us feel better as individuals? Do we feel like, our self-efficacy? What do we think about ourselves? Like, why were we hired? Like, what contribution are we making to the organization? And a lot of this has to do with our personality dimensions, which shapes us from the time we begin learning to embellishing on where we are right now. We develop values, and our personality reflects those values. We're looking at the Kolb Learning Styles Inventory. So we're going to differentiate between skills, abilities, and multiple intelligences. There's so much talk about emotional intelligence. Having the ability to think multidimensionally and looking at the much bigger picture is a very important part of EI. A lot of times these are the people with a high degree of emotional intelligence that can get two things that are unrelated and make them work together somehow. They have the ability to look at the larger peripheral, the bigger picture. Emotions in an organization have a lot to do with how that organization functions, as much as a culture has to do with how the organization functions. Every individual emotion on how people feel about their job performance, or the people that they work with, or even the pay that they're getting, the compensation. Does it really reflect what makes the organization and the individual successful? So there's a balance between the two. What does the employee need? What does the organization need? And when those needs are concurrently met, you have the best run organizations and the largest retention ratios. So, in this particular week, we're going to really zoom in on the individual. You're going to look at all the required materials. You're going to be looking at the DQs. Okay, now again, it says that the DQs need to be answered by March 15th. Don't worry about that. I extended that, okay, to the following week. So don't get nervous about that. So don't worry about the dates that you see. As you know, I mentioned this to you, I aligned the weeks to the due dates, and all the assignments are going to be due at the very end of the week before we start the next week. In other words, the Wentworth week goes from Wednesday to Tuesday. Everything is due by the following Tuesday. So the following Tuesday is going to be the 19th, not the 15th, the 16th that you see on the final paper assignments and all that. Don't worry about that. And of course, I'm always available for you if you need to reach out to me. Send me a text, give me a call. Best way to get me is by text. Tell me what, as you know, I mentioned Curry. I also teach a full load in Curry, but I teach for Wentworth, which I love teaching at Wentworth. It was my very first school I attended after high school. Great institution. You'll learn a lot. Get in touch if you need to. Thank you and have a great week.